Hi there, Martin from Salvo Migration, and in this video we're going to talk about what the partner visa options are for those that are apart. So if you're a couple that's apart, what are your options? If you're a couple that live together in Australia, what are your options? And if you're a couple that live together overseas, what are your options? Relevant to 2021 and 2022. So stick around. Welcome back. So firstly, what I might do is I might just shrink my face a little bit so that you can see the diagram that I'm going to walk you through in this video. And for those that are interested, this diagram is taken from our free guide and checklist, the most important Australian documents in any Australian partner visa guide and checklist. It's 100% free. There should be a link around this video to go and get your copy. There's about 20 diagrams in that guide that help you work through some of the key requirements and concepts in Australian partner visa criteria. But to the point of this video, couples will often fall into three different categories in terms of what their scenario is or what their situation is. Situation one, the most preferable, let's say, or the most ideal, is where the couple is already here. They're onshore, living together, and they're looking to apply for an onshore partner visa. Now, typically that would mean that the visa applicant, the partner visa applicant, has come in on some other type of temporary visa. Statistically, that tells me that they're here on a student visa potentially, maybe a graduate visa in the sense that they've already studied, applied for the graduate visa, maybe that's now approaching its expiry date, could be on some type of working holiday visa, a tourist visa, maybe even sponsored by an employer, or a couple of other very rare alternative visas, but more or less people that are in Australia on temporary visas will be on one of those, okay? So looking to apply for an onshore partner visa whilst you hold one of those visas. If that is your scenario, effectively, it's pretty straightforward in the sense that you're looking to apply for the subclass 820-801, the combined application for an onshore partner visa before your current visa expires. Important point number one, please ensure that if you're applying for an Australian partner visa, it's done before the expiration of any existing visa. Applying after a visa expires causes many problems surrounding additional criteria, which is called Schedule 3 criteria. If you're curious to learn more about Schedule 3 criteria, maybe you are here on a visa, on a bridging visa, or maybe you are unlawful and you're looking to apply for a partner visa, Schedule 3 will likely apply to you. Please have a look at our YouTube channel for Schedule 3 related content. But aside from that, removing that possible complication, if your application is just vanilla flavored and no other complications, you're looking to apply for the 820-801. When that visa is applied for, you must be able to demonstrate to the department that you're in a de facto or married relationship. Straightforward, no problems. You stay in the country lawfully on your bridging visa A for Apple, which will have work rights until the eventual decision and outcome of that 820 application. Let's put that aside, okay? If you're here onshore, nothing really else to be gained by watching this video because you guys are covered. For couples that are offshore, this is where it starts to get a little bit more technical in terms of weighing up the options and comparing what might be best or the most suitable pathway for that particular couple. Now, option one may be to try to get the visa applicant onshore on some type of temporary visa, likely one of the ones I've already listed, to apply for an onshore partner visa. So currently, you both live together overseas, and the plan is to migrate to Australia together. One option is to apply for a temporary visa, come onshore, and apply onshore. That has its benefits. Onshore applicants have the right to work once they apply and once they're on their bridging visa. Onshore applicants have right to Medicare. So as soon as you apply for the partner visa, the applicant is eligible for Medicare. Now, generally, that pathway will suit couples that are looking to come quickly, because often it can be much quicker to apply for a temporary visa to enter Australia than it might be comparing against option two, which is actually applying for an offshore partner visa. So if you are living together overseas and you elect not to go down, let's say, pathway one or option one, or it's not feasible in the sense that you just can't get a temporary visa for the partner visa applicant, so you can't come onshore to apply onshore, well then that leaves option two, which is where you look to apply for an offshore partner visa and wait for that outcome likely before you're looking to come. For those that are exploring option two, effectively you have two pathways there. Either you're applying directly for the 309-100, which is what we call the full partner visa, or for couples that feel they may not meet those requirements, they can apply for a prospective marriage visa on the basis they intend to marry. And really from there, it's a matter of waiting for that outcome before entering Australia. That being said, depending at the time that you watch this video, there may still be provisions that allow an offshore partner visa to be granted to someone that is onshore. So I would say option 2A is applying for an offshore partner visa and then maybe exploring what the option is to come onshore whilst waiting for the offshore partner visa. Now, once upon a time, pre-COVID, that had its issues in the sense of you could apply for an offshore partner visa, you could still secure other temporary visas for the visa applicant to come onshore, spend time with their Australian partner here. However, the problem was that you couldn't have that offshore partner visa granted to someone that was onshore. The applicant had to leave the country, had to depart the country in order to have that offshore partner visa granted. At the time of recording this video, however, there are temporary arrangements, temporary provisions, which we do not know when they're going to expire, so hold on that question, that allow offshore partner visas to be granted to those that do come onshore. Okay, so that is another possible pathway. There are uncertainties surrounding how long those applications will take. So if you apply for an offshore partner visa and that's pending with the department, and you choose to come in next on a temporary visa whilst waiting for that offshore application, understand that in that instance, there's competing timeframes here, there's competing timelines. How long will the offshore partner visa take versus how long do you have left on the temporary visa that's been granted to you, understanding that offshore applications, unless under very specific circumstances, will not have bridging visas associated to them. Therefore, your right to stay in the country whilst you're waiting for the offshore application is dependent on the visa that's been granted to you and your options to extend or apply for other temporary visas to keep you in the country, again, whilst you're waiting for the offshore application. So things can get, what I would say, messy. It is all possible, but may want to be something you avoid, possibly. The cleaner, simpler option may be option 1, which is coming in first and applying onshore, or applying for the offshore partner visas and waiting for those applications to be decided. Thankfully, again, at the time of recording this video, we are in a time where onshore and offshore partner visas can be processed relatively quickly, especially in comparison to processing averages in the past. We're seeing applications processed both on and offshore in around 6 months, give or take. So the waiting time for an offshore application to be processed is much less than what it used to be a couple of years ago, where you may have been waiting 12, 18, 24 months. And understanding that if you're applying for an offshore partner visa, presumably there's many things that you and your partner are going to need to organize before you commit to jumping on that flight and migrating to Australia. So waiting 6 months may just give you a sufficient amount of time to arrange your affairs. Finish work where required, organize your property if needed, organize transportation and the sending of money and assets and furniture to Australia, saying goodbye to family, having your goodbye parties, all the things that happen naturally, logically, when people move to another country. So that is really the options available to couples offshore. My final statement with couples in that bracket would be, what we want to avoid is you and your partner being separated for any period of time. Whenever we talk to couples, particularly those that live together overseas, and we're exploring the differences between option 1, option 2, option 2A, as I mentioned, it's about reducing any possibility of being separated. If COVID has taught us anything, it's that you want to really avoid partners not being together, because as the situation does start to stabilize, there's always the possibility for things to get more complicated in future. We just don't know what's around the corner with COVID. And there's been a very long period of couples that have been stuck, separated, because they just made the wrong decision prior to March 2020, decided to separate for what they thought was going to be a very short-term temporary period, and have been stuck separated ever since. So that's generally where we lean on, or a factor that we definitely put a lot of emphasis on, is anything we're planning for couples that are overseas. It's about ensuring that whatever we do not lead them towards an option that may lead to them being separated. Now, lastly, for couples that are physically apart, that does present similar options, let's say, to couples that are physically offshore. However, there are practical differences here, in the sense of couples that are physically apart may find it more difficult to obtain and accumulate the types of documentation and evidence that it would be required to prove that they are in a de facto or spousal relationship, which is what would be required if they're applying for an offshore partner visa directly in terms of the 309-100 offshore. For couples that are physically separated, generally in the past, if there's been an intent to marry, the prospective marriage visa likely is where we would have suggested they head first. It's a much lower evidentiary burden than applying directly for the 309-100. Or, there is the possibility of trying to bring their partner in on a temporary visa, which would be option 1 in this diagram, and then applying for the onshore visa. So you kind of skip the prospective marriage visa, you skip the 309 with the view of bringing the visa holder the temporary visa holder in, and then applying for an onshore 820, 801 once the partner's here. So I suppose to recap, options for couples that are apart, option 1 is trying to find a pathway to bring the partner in so that they're reunited, but they haven't yet committed to applying for a partner visa. They're just delaying the assessment of their relationship, but they want to be reunited. Step 1 is try to get them here. If that doesn't work, if there's just no option, then we revert to option 2, which likely will revolve around committing to an offshore partner visa of some kind. There's 2 options, the 309-100 or the PMV. What suits best really depends on your unique relationship facts. And option 3 may revolve around the Australian leaving. So the Australian departing Australia to be reunited with their partner and then kind of circling back to option 1, maybe bringing them in and coming together. Or option 2, applying for an offshore partner visa at that point once you're back physically together. And that, guys, are really the visa options and considerations that you should be making, and certainly that we make when we talk to couples in our visa planning sessions, in comparing what's going to work best depending on whether or not they're onshore, both living offshore, or currently living apart. And lastly, before I forget, I actually did forget, but just to reiterate, the diagram you're seeing in this video has been taken from our free guide, the most important documents in any Australian partner visa guide and checklist. There should be a link around this video to go and get your copy. That's it from me, Martin Salvo, and I'll see you guys in the next video.